Welcome to your Daily Writing Habit, episode number 443. If you are writing a book or thinking about it or trying to finish a book you've started, or maybe you need help letting people know about your book, you are in the right place. Good morning and happy Saturday. I'm your host, Christine Whitmarsh, also known as Christine Inc., like that stuff you write with. Each day I'm sharing with you the writing habits I've learned over my 18 years as a ghostwriter, book coach, and author. I have found that 3 things in particular have a huge impact on your success as an author, and they have the ability to turn a quote-unquote non-author into a published one. Those 3 things are writing fundamentals, productivity, and mindset habits. Here's today's quote. Everything in fiction is a tool. Pain, betrayal, even death. These are like different colors on a painter's palette. You need to use them. And that is a quote from the movie The Door in the Floor from 2004. And yes, let's talk about movies. You know those certain movies and also TV series that you can't seem to flip by when you're channel surfing? I don't know if anybody else channel surfs anymore in the age of streaming. I might be the only one. So think back to channel surfing. Anyway, I'm talking about those personal favorites, again, movies and TV series that for whatever reason you end up stopping and you end up watching the whole thing, whether it's a whole episode or even binge watching the whole series if it's a marathon, even if you've seen it like a million times before. This might be for reasons of personal preference, or as a writer, I find that more often than not, there are specific writing tools on display that I'm simply enjoying geeking out over and over and over. So for me, I think I end up stopping because of the writing personally. And here are 7 examples of writing things that I see in movies and TV shows that I love geeking out over, including my favorite example for each one. The movies and TV shows that I personally stop to watch when flipping through the channels. In case you were wondering what I like to watch, here we go. Writing thing number 1. Now, I think of the series Breaking Bad, which for me, along with its spin-off Better Call Saul, was one of the best written series I've ever seen on television, possibly movies. They were almost short films, Breaking Bad and Better Call Saul. It's really hard to even call them television shows. But I would imagine there's a lot of other series shows that are similar to that these days. But you can actually boil down Breaking Bad into one phrase, plot-wise, and that phrase is unintended consequences. The show reinforced beautifully how each decision a character makes, or as we real-life people make in real life, can set off a chain reaction of events. Obviously at a much more dramatic level of events on Breaking Bad and Better Call Saul. But really, if you look at these shows, it's really one of the best examples of cause and effect that I've ever seen to study. Writing thing number 2. The lesson that the point of view in storytelling is everything. And for me, that's no more evident in movies like, especially this movie pairing here, The Wolf of Wall Street versus Boiler Room. It's the same story, same company, it's all based on the same person, just 2 completely different points of view. Now, The Wolf of Wall Street, of course, that was based on the point of view of Jordan Belfort, the CEO of the stock firm. And also it was his memoir, so that's why it was his point of view. So more so, and for me, it was more, rather than, just being a story about the dirty side of stock trading, I kind of think of The Wolf of Wall Street as the biography of a sociopathic addict, not so much. And this stock trading more as like the vehicle for the story, if I'm being honest. But again, it was his memoir, so it was his point of view to choose. And that's the beauty of memoirs, by the way. Boiler Room, on the other hand, same story, which, by the way, full disclosure, one of my favorite movies of all time for several writing, storytelling, and filmmaking reasons. But Boiler Room is seen through the point of view of one of the young stockbrokers and how he finds himself entangled in that dirty world. So again, same story told completely differently because of 2 different narrators. So there's a great writing lesson there about choosing the narrator for your book carefully and what their specific perspective will be. Writing thing number 3. Of course, Goodfellas. Anybody that's a movie fan, I think Goodfellas makes most of the top movie lists over and over. And I physically can't move past it with the remote. I've seen this movie probably 100 times, but I can't move past it. So much, writing and storytelling and filmmaking reasons. But here's one that stands out for me, which is the character sketches. Of course, these were based on real guys from Henry Hill's memoir. But in the movie, I think it's that each character's best, worst, and most eccentric traits were drawn out and highlighted and really exaggerated. So their best traits, their worst traits, and their most eccentric traits, really, really super exaggerated. And because of this, it created a natural setup for all sorts of conflict and drama throughout the plot, because you have these kind of like just larger than life characters. So I believe that, of course, that was very intentional. So there's a great lesson there about character development and exaggerating the extremes of character traits for specific story purposes. Writing thing number 4, and this is a quick one here, the TV show MASH, another classic. And the lesson I see here is creating contrast. Specifically in that show, the attempts to create normalcy in an atmosphere of chaos and life and death stakes. The contrast for me could not be any sharper. So creating normalcy in the midst of chaos. Great lesson there about creating contrast. Number 5. Another personal favorite for me, the movie Mr. Holland's Opus, and not just because I'm a former band geek. What I love about this movie is how absolutely invested the character was in the thing he wants. Now, remember, the author Kurt Vonnegut said, basic story principle, every character must want something in every scene, every book, every moment. Even if it's just as simple as a glass of water, every character must want something. Now, Mr. Holland was invested literally in the thing he wanted for his entire life. It's all he ever thought about, and I'm not going to give away what it was. You have to watch the movie. But the thing that this character wanted was the only thing he ever thought about. He actually, his entire life kind of operated and, revolved around this thing. So his whole life kind of operated outside of this thing he wanted for the entire movie. Really just, such a great example of giving a character a very strong goal, a very strong want, and then having to, have a story unfold around that and how they negotiate when they don't get what they want and how they go on. So just great example in that movie. Giving a character that powerful of a desire is quite impressive from a character development standpoint. Number 6, of course, dialogue being the obvious writing tool to study when you're watching movies and TV series, because movies and TV series, screenwriting is literally built around dialogue and action. So that's the best place if you're wanting to brush up on your dialogue writing skills for book writing. Absolutely watch movies. And 2 of my favorite filmmakers for this being the master, of course, David Mamet, also Richard Linklater, but let's stick with David Mamet for this, with examples of his work, including Glengarry Glen Ross and Wag the Dog. Those are 2 of my favorite Mamet movies. And if you're looking to, study the art of truly understanding the subtext of human conversation, and this is the important part, not just how to write it or reflect it. Dialogue is not just writing and reflecting human conversation, but if you really want to learn how to craft it, to craft dialogue, to craft a conversation, study the work of David Mamet. And there's so many others too. You just look up, great movies, great dialogue, and you'll probably find a ton of them all over the internet. But that's really why we study dialogue, because we want to learn not just how to write or reflect conversations. We want to learn how to craft conversations. And finally, number 7, humor. In addition to dialogue, this is another tricky one, historically speaking, for writers. And the number 1 secret I have found from studying comedy movies and TV is this. Find the most ordinary, like boringly ordinary situations, almost like inane, that you can possibly find. And then make it your task to exaggerate the living heck out of them. So think of like Office Space for, exaggerating the humor of just like working a 9-to-5 job. Would you just think on paper, like, this is going to be one of the funniest movies ever made? Again, my opinion is just 9-to-5 job in a cubicle. It's like really boring. One of the funniest movies ever made, Office Space, because of the exaggerations. The vacation movies, going on family trip, put the kids in the car, go on a family trip, go out to Disney World, or in the case of the movie Wally World, the vacation movies, massively exaggerated everyday events. So I think often as writers, maybe we tend to overthink and therefore mess up basic humor, which is quite often very, very basic. And that's my list of 7 writing things that we can learn from movies and TV. And I will be sure to list my 7 movie titles in the show notes in case you want to watch any of these movies. And I should say, as writers, study these movies for yourselves. Thank you for joining me here on Your Daily Writing Habit, where I am helping you write and finish writing an awesome book. And please drop by my Ink Authors group, INK, Ink Authors on Facebook, and let me know your favorite movies and TV series that you like to learn from as an author. Ink Authors on Facebook. Until tomorrow, happy writing.